Okay, we are live. It is April 18th, 2022, and I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView. And we are going to talk USFL. We are going to talk Jeff Fisher. We are going to talk cornerbacks, and we are just going to have a lot of fun talking about how the Rams made a move on this day, produced the key piece that allowed them to acquire the legendary Hugh Millen. Yeah, Hugh Millen. Maybe you got to be a great Rams fan if you want to remember that name. So, yeah, my name is Joe Terosian, and I write books, and I spent 30 years, 12, 20 plus years as a sports writer, still kind of writing sports. I write books now. I pastor a small church in Burbank, and I do this because I love talking football, and I love connecting. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the clicks. Thank you for the interactions. And such, and we'll just go from there. Oh, by the way, you can check out my books on Amazon there. The commercial's done. Tangent Dreams, a high school football novel. I've written a couple of football novels. They're a lot of fun. You can check it out. Hey, did you check out the USFL this weekend? Yeah, I saw the USFL. I thought I enjoyed it. I didn't get rainouts, and I guess it was lightning or something. I don't know, but why some games are delayed. It's like, just get out there and play. I thought it looked like good college football to some extent. But the one thing I just couldn't take away was Jeff Fisher's team was out there and Michigan, and they're struggling with their offense, right? They can't score a point. In fact, they look horrible on offense. And I'm thinking, man, at some point, is somebody just going to pull the plug on Jeff Fisher, right? I mean, I assume he's a nice guy. He's exciting and everything, but man, it's like, he's like Dracula, right? There's Dracula. Dracula's risen from the grave. Taste the blood of Dracula. Dracula AD. Dracula. He just keeps coming back, and it's bad football, man. And I know there's a place for him, right? But yeah, I just couldn't help but laugh as I saw the Michigan Panther team struggling. It was fun seeing those other teams, those uniforms that we got familiar with in our youth and such. And so yeah, cool. I had forgotten about Luis Perez being in Rams camp, but I was reminded of it, and I thought that was kind of cool that he got some playing time. In regards to the USFL itself, I don't know if scheduling 3 games on Easter Sunday in the South was the smartest of all things. I don't think people were going to miss church, miss being together, and go to a football game on Easter Sunday. Now, they might do it on other Sundays, but not Easter Sunday. And then in the South, right? Maybe if you did it in Seattle, maybe if you did it in Boston, but then again, those aren't really football places comparatively compared to the South. I mean, they've picked a great location, but whoever was the marketing genius that said, yeah, let's have 3 games on a Sunday, on Easter Sunday, one was sufficient, and you probably should have started it later in the day and then saved the other 2 for Monday night. And I guess one is being played tonight. In regards to the camera angles and all the stuff, I don't like the helmet cam. They act like it gives you some great vision or something. It doesn't do anything for me, the helmet cam. And the drone shots are okay to an extent, but they just don't replace the standard video of just a regular, left to right horizontal presentation of the field. I just think they're trying to cater to the Madden crowd who grew up at all those. I prefer, like I said, the horizontal angle of the field as opposed to the linear angle of the field. And so yeah, I get they're trying really hard, but that stuff doesn't appeal to me, And I think if you're watching football in the spring, you're a football person, and so you love football, and you're not trying. I don't know. Are you really trying to gain new fans? I guess with spring football. Okay, I guess whatever. But yeah. So there you go. Tavon Howard, Travin Howard, we knew the Rams had tendered him, and there was pretty little doubt that he was going to sign. He signed, and then there was the news that broke: the Rams released Kareem Moore, who slipped in that one game, the COVID game that happened in Arizona, and he slipped in there and played some snaps for us in that game. Good job. We won the game. So God bless Kareem Moore, but they put him on the street. And because they put him on the street, everyone's talking about how thin the Rams corner room is. And you got Jalen Ramsey, David Long Jr., you got Robert Rochelle, Grant Haley, who I've heard people say, man, I like Grant Haley. I've seen every Ram game since 2003. I don't think he goes back that far. I don't recall seeing Grant Haley taking any snaps, right? But I get it. Okay. But Grant Haley's on the roster. And then I saw another name from Wyoming, Tyler Hall. And those are the names that are on the board. The one name that I asked about on Twitter today, and I thank everybody for responding, was I'm trying to get a grip on Dante Dion. And I had initially saw something in February that he had signed, but no, he's listed among the free agents from the Rams. And I'm really surprised if he just wants more money or they're not interested in bringing him back because he's 28. But Dante Dion gave the Rams some great clicks. You know, he played over 400 snaps last year. He played 461 snaps. Now, he's always been a practice squad lower into the roster guy, right? Always for his 6-year career. But, you know, he played really well. Do you know overall with his snaps, he graded out in the top third of 116 rated cornerbacks on PFF, Pro Football Focus. He graded out at 33. He was in the top 1/3 in coverage, top 1/3 against the run, and such. He played some really good football for the Rams last year. Now, am I saying he's Darius Williams or he's a star? No, but the room looks a little less thinner if you got David Long, Robert Rochelle, and Dante Dion to go along with Jalen Ramsey. And because of this is the whole reason where many of us, I like to throw myself into that group now, is I've seen some mock drafts that has the Rams taking a running back in the third round at 104. Hey, it's Les Snead, so anything's possible. But the position that's rising to prominence right now in terms of need is corner. And there are several corners in this draft. And as the need for as wide receivers are becoming more and more plentiful, the need to guard against them is becoming more and more important. So more corners are going to go as the draft goes on. Something like there's 10 top 10 guys here. Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU, Trent McDuff at Washington, Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati, Andrew Booth, Clemson. And so there's a lot of depth there at corner, but all these guys are going to be gone by the time the Rams pick at 104. And so all these guys, Stingley, McDuffie, Gardner, Andre Booth, Kiara Elam, Petrie, Hill, McCreary, Gordon, Emerson, all of them are gone. Some of the names I've seen floated around the Rams: Marcus Jones, Zion McCallum, Cordell Flott, Cam Taylor Brenton out of Nebraska, Tariq Woolen, Josh Jobe, Alabama, Tariq Castro Fields, Kobe Bryant, which is the name everyone's in love with, and Mario Goodrich out of Clemson as well. And so all those names are kind of popping up because the top of the line guys are going to be gone. And as more conversation has happened around Marcus Jones, Zion McCollum, and some of these guys, they've moved up on a lot of people's draft boards. There's a lot of draft boards. I did a mock draft that had the Rams taking Zion McCollum. But one, he's a Senior Bowl guy, and so the Rams love Senior Bowl guys. He fit right into that early 100 range, but more people are talking about him, and so he's likely to be gone. All of them were gone. The only names that kind of really popped up that were I'm seeing on Rams boards of different mock drafts was Cordell Flott of LSU, the complement to Derek Stingley over there. Another name that popped up was Castro Fields out of Penn State, Kobe Bryant again out of Cincinnati. He's the counterpart to Sauce Gardner at Cincy, and Mario Goodrich. Now everyone wants Kobe Bryant because he's got a Laker connection there, right? Kobe Bryant. But I'll go with Goodrich because Goodrich is a name that was pretty familiar with the Lakers as well. All those guys were Senior Bowl participants. You know, the Rams didn't even go necessarily or have a presence at the combine. The Rams do their scouting and they make their choices. So expect the Rams. I did a mock draft, and the closest I got was Cordell Flott. That there are guys they want, but they're guys that just might not be available. And it'll be interesting to see because Kobe Bryant did not have a good combine. Mario Goodrich is rated low. A lot of these guys are rated low, and you know you might be able to pick them up after 142 or at 142 as opposed to 104, which means that if the Rams get to 104 and their choices for corners are gone, that means they could go offensive lineman, which is another need, interior offensive line. So again, it's very fluid. No one really knows. The one thing I will say is that if the Rams have 3 number 6s and 2 number 7s, so there's 5 picks in the last 2 rounds, I could easily see them pairing the fourth round pick at 142 or the fifth round pick at 175, pairing them together with a couple of those later round draft picks and maybe moving up into the top 100 and possibly grabbing a Zion McCallum or somebody they want. I mean, this is the Rams, right? This is what they do. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and we'll just keep talking about it going forward. As we hit the 10-minute mark, we got a lot of buzz last week because I've been hitting on some of these dates in Ram history. And of course, they haven't played any games in April, but it's interesting to see the things that have happened on these dates. And so I'm just going to go through a couple of weird things here. And I call this one Weird Signings and Rapid Cuts on this date. On this date in 1978, the Rams signed a broken down quarterback that played at Pacific University. And he started 3 games with the Packers in 76. His name was Carlos Brown. But you know him as Alan Autry. He's an actor. He played in North Dallas 40. He's been in a lot of TV shows. And the interesting thing about Carlos Brown, he was a 3-year player at quarterback for Pacific in the early 70s. His senior year, he played tight end. He gets drafted by the Packers, and the Packers were so desperate at quarterback that they ended up starting him 3 games. He was very quick. Weird signing, rapid cut. He was acting and he moved on from there. I think he tried to make it in Canada afterwards. Another name the Rams signed on this day in 1990, and he was cut by the beginning, and that's probably in the last cut in September of that year. So he was about 5 months with the Rams, was Lupe Sanchez. He had a nice little cup of coffee with the Steelers, but Lupe Sanchez was a defensive back, a pretty good defensive back for UCLA. You might remember him in the 80s and some of those Terry Donahue teams that made, 4 consecutive New Year's Day appearances, bowl appearances. I think 3 Rose Bowls and what was the other one they did? Yeah, they had several. Oh, I think it was Fiesta Bowl with Bono. And so Lupe Sanchez signed with the Rams on this day in 1990, and 5 months later he was cut. Like I said, weird signing, rapid cut. And then on this day, the Rams cut Heisman Trophy winner Eric Crouch. And here is the thing. We're barely in April, right? And the Rams in 2002, this is in 2003, the Rams cut Eric Crouch. And they spent a 3rd round, 95th overall pick on him in 2002 to see if they could convert him to a receiver. He won the Heisman with Nebraska. The Rams spent a 3rd round pick on him, 95 overall. And within a year, they cut him. Man, that was a reach. Kind of another sign that dark days were ahead for formerly what was the greatest show on earth. Now, another good thing here that happened on this date in 1998, the Rams drafted some key components of that greatest show on turf era. On this day in 1998, they drafted Grant Winstrom, number 6 overall out of Nebraska, Robert Holcomb, number 37 out of Illinois. He's a fullback, and Leonard Little, number 65 out of Tennessee. On the second day, which would be tomorrow, the Rams drafted in that same draft at 96, Zahir Akeem out of San Diego State, and Roland Williams, tight end out of Syracuse. Now, all of those guys were contributors in that era, in the year that they won the Super Bowl in St. Louis. Now, Winstrom was kind of nice when the Rams had him, but they ended up letting him walk. As a number 6 overall pick, he really had only one double-digit sack season. Holcomb was a nice fullback. Leonard Little, unfortunately, ended up having a nice career, and he's ended up having a nice life in retirement. But he infamously, I think he was later on his 24th birthday, he got into that car accident as a drunk driver, and he killed somebody, killed a mom. And I don't think it's so hard to ever escape that, we're dealing with that with Henry Ruggs right now. And it's so easy in our world, right? Write him off, hate him, all those things. He's a POS. We've heard all those things. And I think it's kind of interesting to see that Little has moved on in his life, and you've seen him interviewed on a couple of podcasts and stuff. And in one sense, it's such a tragic thing that happened. It's such a terrible thing that he did. But on the other hand, you're kind of happy to see someone kind of recover in their life, because if not, 2 people are going to die. And it's hard. It's a hard thing, but it's interesting to see Leonard Little functioning. I'm sure there's not a day that he doesn't think about what he did. Akeem, my goodness, he was aces for the Rams, right? He was another key component in that greatest show on turf. And then Roland Williams, the tight end. He ended up having a cup of coffee. I think he's also on TV right now with Fukuzaki on KABC. So pretty significant players. What a heck of a draft for the Rams in 98. On this date in 1986, this is another interesting one. The CFL football in Canadian Football League, there's a Hall of Fame receiver named Terry Greer. From 1980 through 85, he caught for 6 seasons. He caught 404 passes, 47 touchdowns. Hall of Famer. He was originally an 11th round draft pick, 304 overall by the Rams in 1980 out of Alabama. And he didn't sign. Before he could even come to camp out there in Fullerton, he ended up signing with Canada and had a great career there. And now you're going to hear the rest of the story because you're thinking, what does that have to do with us? Well, after 85, he came back to the NFL, but the Rams still owned his rights. He ended up going to Cleveland, and he signed with Cleveland, but Cleveland had to give up a compensation pick to the Rams for Terry Greer's rights. And so for a guy that they drafted in the 11th round in 1980, the Rams received a 4th round pick in the 1986 draft. All right, that's not bad. That's good stuff, right? 96th overall pick. But they ended up taking that 96th overall pick, and they dealt it about 11 days later with the 101 pick overall and the rights to Jeff Kemp. Remember Jeff Kemp, nice backup quarterback for the Rams from about 81, 80, all the way through 84, 85. He was the manager of the team in 84 after Ferragamo got hurt, led the Rams to the playoffs. Well, Dickerson led the Rams to the playoffs. Kemp just played quarterback for the Rams and handed the ball off to him. That's the year we lost to the Giants, Dwayne Crutchfield at home. Not a good one. So the Rams ended up with the 96th overall pick because of Terry Greer, guy that never played for them. They got the fourth round pick. But 11 days later, when the draft came, they packaged that 96th pick along with the 101st pick and Jeff Kemp to move up in the draft to the 71st spot overall because they wanted Hugh Millen out of Washington, right? Hugh Millen. They wanted Hugh Millen. You know how bad Hugh Millen was? Hugh Millen was bad. Big arm, but whoa, he was bad. Ended up with the Falcons, ended up with the Patriots, started some games for the Patriots. But Hugh Millen, the Rams traded 2 draft picks and Jeff Kemp to move up to the 71st spot. But now I'm really going to tell you a really bad part of this story. They made that deal with the 49ers in their division. And the 49ers says, we'll take Jeff Kemp. We'll take the 96th and the 101st. With that 96th pick in the 86 draft, the San Francisco 49ers took out of James Madison linebacker Charles Haley. With the 101st pick, they took Steve Wallace, tackle, out of Auburn. Haley ended up going to 5 Super Bowls. He ended up playing going to the Hall of Fame. Not a bad career. Probably one of the scariest dudes ever on a football field. Charles Haley. And that was the pick the Rams gave the 49ers for that. And you wonder why we kept losing to them. They also gave them the pick in the 101st to draft Steve Wallace. And Wallace ended up starting at left tackle for Frisco for 8 years. He went to a Pro Bowl, and they won 3 Super Bowls with him at left tackle. All courtesy of John Shaw and the Rams because they wanted Hugh Millen. And how bad was Hugh Millen? The draft was in April. By mid-season next year of 86, a few months later, that's when they sold the farm and made the deal for Jim Everett, including giving up Kent Hill and Drew Hill in that draft in that trade with the Houston Oilers. I thought that was pretty interesting. No, it wasn't Drew Hill, it was Kent Hill. They gave up, and he was an all-pro at that time. But the Rams basically put cornerstones at left tackle and linebacker for the San Francisco 49ers because they wanted Hugh Millen. Just thought it was an interesting progression there. And that 1986 draft was really special for John Shaw because him and John Robinson went all the way up to Queens, Canada, grabbed their first-round pick, who was Mike Schad. Do you remember Mike Schad? Mike Schad, bad. Now, at number 50, they went to Wisconsin Lacrosse, and they got Tom Newberry, who had a nice career, about 10 years, some Pro Bowls, was all pro 1 year. And pretty much, folks, that's it. They drafted Hugh Millen at 71. The only interesting other part of that draft was with their last pick in the 12th round at 327, they drafted Marcus Dupree. Now, Marcus Dupree had already torn up his knee playing in the USFL, and his rights were available because his draft class came up, and the Rams spent a pick on him. And in 90 and 91, he played about 15 games for the Rams. He didn't look too bad, but his knee was toast. He was gone. And then when Robinson moved on, pretty much Marcus Dupree moved on. But I thought that was interesting. I thought we should get those things out there. We are at the 20-minute mark. Can you imagine the Rams helped build some of that Frisco dynasty by giving them the draft picks for Grant Haley, not Grant Haley. Oh, we got Grant Haley for Charles Haley and Steve Wallace. Unbelievable. And yeah, it's almost as bad as Jeff Fisher running an offense. Hey, I'm Joe Terosian. Thank you so much for clicking on. Thank you for answering my questions. Again, if you have a mock draft, you send it to me. Love to talk about it as we're going to focus on the corners, and we'll be posting that on my website at joeterosian.com. Check out my books. And we will be back mañana talking Rams football. Thank you so much. Take care. God bless.